Okay, it's my first video like this and it's really different from what I usually do, and I don't know how you guys are going to receive it, but I felt way too strongly about this game and its ending to not talk about it, and I also feel like I owe too much to it to not at least express how it helped me, how it's impacted me. So I played the original Persona 5 back in summer of 2019. Yeah, I know, super late. When I finished it, since I wasn't taking YouTube seriously at all, I really had nowhere other than my really small friend group at the time to express why I resonated with the messages that the game put forth so much. This video, however, is after I've completed and got the new true ending of Persona 5 Royal, with this game preaching the same things as the original Persona 5, plus the added arc of the third semester. The new ending brought by that third semester impacted me in a way that not even the original did, and that original game impacted me a fuck ton. So for me to say that this game, in my opinion, like the ending shits on the original, for me to say that is wow. Just to clarify, this isn't a super in detail review of every little damn thing this game does. I won't even touch gameplay at all for that matter. Literally only the narrative that this game brings and what the characters did for me in a time when I never felt more alone, meaningless, depressed. But yeah, I legit lost sight of my path at the time, my reason for trying so hard in life. I completely lost sight of whose happiness I was fighting for at the end of the day. Looking back, I can definitely say it wasn't for my own, that's for sure. Okay, so the format in which I'll be tackling the subjects and lessons I got from this game is by actually running down all the characters from the Phantom Thieves only. Don't worry, I won't do every single goddamn confidant that you get in this game. Each character obviously has their own arc, which then contains the message that I took away anyways. If you are interested in playing the game completely blind, I will say just stop now. However, if you choose to still watch this video and see what it did for me, what this game did for me, I will say that it's still really worth it to play the game, even though you'll know a lot of things that happen, because nothing compares to actually experiencing the emotional buildup firsthand. So yeah, I still recommend it. And if you have also completed the game, well, I don't really have to say much to you other than enjoy. First and foremost, there is you, the protagonist Joker. Now, before I dive into him, I want to say something. I know that Persona protagonists in general are a pretty blank slate, right? Having no personality at all at first glance for the sake of us being able to pretend to be them. However, in every Persona game, based on how your friends talk about you, and even in the dialogue options you get an idea of the kind of person, quote unquote, you are in this game. So Joker is a teenage boy who was wrongfully charged with assault by a corrupt politician, when all he was trying to do was help a woman he was sexually harassing. In fact, you don't even do much. The politician stumbles over his own 2 feet due to being drunk, falls to the ground, and fucks up your life by calling the police and charging you with assault. This gives you a hit on your record. As a result of this, you are expelled from your current high school back at home and forced to transfer to a completely new town and new high school, Shujin Academy. Everybody around you when you arrive at the school thinks they know everything they need to know about you without even getting to know you. Everyone refers to you as the delinquent transfer student, calling you scary and violent, and saying things like, watch out for that guy, he might just pull out a knife or something. Nobody wants anything to do with you. Hell, even the guardian that's letting you live in their attic is super cold and acts like you're a punk at first. You discover further down the story that these unfair rumors and treatment from the beginning of the game all the way to the end never bothered him. You as Joker never let what people think of him hold him back from being himself or sticking to what he thinks is right and his ideals. He doesn't let public opinion dictate how he makes decisions about his life. And most importantly, he doesn't let these people get to his head. He doesn't turn to anger or to violence despite these people. Instead, he becomes the change he wishes to see himself in the people around him. He doesn't judge anyone without giving them a fair shot and trying to understand where they come from and their side of the story. This leads us to the first friend we make that kicks off the beginning of the Phantom Thieves and this beautiful goddamn story. Ryuji. Man, this is your day one. Like goddamn, he is the embodiment of what you should want in a friend. A true ride or die. A fellow second year like you, he's written off by everyone as the troublemaker. Your teacher even advises you to stay away from him because he's nothing but trouble. Imagine people making an active effort to isolate you from others because of the unfair judgments from people who haven't even gotten to properly know you. That is fucked up, Jesus. Anyway, you both accidentally wander into the metaverse to discover the palace of the perverted gym teacher Kamoshida, who we later learn physically abuses his male students and sexually sexually harasses his female students. Ryuji has been suspicious about this for a long time, but no one takes anything he says seriously due to the unfair judgment against him.
Rex things he doesn't agree with, just like he did with me. No one will take anything I say seriously. Still, those rumors about him getting physical might be real.
That all changes when you met Yu. You give him the fair chance that no one else bothered to give him, even though he was the outcast in his school. One thing leads to another, and by the end of the game, you guys are best friends. After, against all odds, according to Ryuji anyway, you decided to help him further in his mission to get rid of that teacher. He thought there was no way in hell you, somebody he just met, would agree to help him out with such a pressing issue, and personal at that. We find out later that the disgusting gym teacher is the reason behind his injured leg, why the school's track team is gone, and why Ryuji's dream future of going to college on a track scholarship to help his mother is seemingly destroyed. However, as the story and his social link progress, an analogy becomes apparent on how Ryuji views life now, after you've helped him immensely. He views life pretty much as his former passion, as a track.
Honestly, even with the rehab, I don't know if my leg's ever gonna be how it was before. But when I think about how much I want to run, well, I figure there's no point lying to myself. Nothing's guaranteed. I don't know if I'm gonna get anywhere, but well, you could say that for any goal, right? I don't want to live stuck on regrets or shame. I'd rather just run and keep on running. It's nice feeling like I got a future worth looking forward to for once, though. And it's all thanks to you, man.
No matter how rough things get, no matter how the odds may be stacked against him, no matter how unfair he gets treated, he vows to keep running and running and running, not letting his past define him as a person going forward and chain him down. I get teary-eyed every time just like talking in depth about his character, just because I remember the end of his social link when you rank 10 him, when you're out eating with him at his favorite ramen spot. He can be really obnoxious and loud and he just seems like a real hardhead. But in this moment, when it's just you and him and you've helped him completely overcome his mental hurdle, he just lets it all out and lets himself be vulnerable with you. God, I'm just gonna play the clip.
Hey, this ain't like me, but I managed to change because you were here helping me. I got you all wrapped up in this shit, but you stayed with me till the bitter end. You didn't abandon me, so thanks, man. It's funny, huh? This started out as us training for the Phantom Thieves. How'd it end up like this? Either way, it's my turn now. If anything comes up, you tell me. I'll help you with whatever you need.
Next up is An, the first of the female Phantom Thieves to join your cause to change society. An and Ryuji are both introduced in the perverted gym teacher arc, and An suffers the much more unsettling part of this arc. When you first properly meet An, she's cold and cautious around you, probably as a defense mechanism as a result of what she was going through. But she finally opens up after you end up being one of the only people who gives her a chance to explain herself and ask for help. In this really emotional talk with her, she opens up, allowing you to discover that the teacher uses his power and influence over the volleyball team, more specifically An's best friend Shiho Suzui, as leverage to try and manipulate An into having relations with him. However, when that doesn't work, he vents his frustrations by using Shiho in ways. I can imagine he probably used tactics along the lines of threatening to remove her from the team to make her feel obligated to fulfill his lustful wishes. It's not too long after we've been made aware of the situation when An's best friend Shiho reaches her breaking point, and yeah, An was aware of this abuse but felt powerless. She obviously didn't want anything to do herself with Kamoshida no matter what, but knowing her friend was suffering all of that abuse on her behalf and drove her to want to end her life, it absolutely killed An from the inside. To make matters worse, because of An's looks, everyone in the school wrote her off as a slut, calling her easy, and rumors that she was indeed together with Kamoshida spread around due to being seen with him a couple times. If she was to speak out, no one would care to do anything, even if they believed her. Everyone was afraid of Kamoshida's influence and power to ruin students' futures. Obviously, things get resolved as you play the game, but this topic that is further explored in An's social link is extremely common, unfortunately. So, not everybody will be able to relate to the aspect of having a friend being sexually assaulted. If you can relate, then you're gonna feel this a lot more, but even if you can't relate, I'm sure we've all been in a situation where our friend or somebody that we care about is going through something terrible, something dark, and you wish you could do more, but there seems to be a limit, and you hate this, obviously. You wish you could be stronger. You wish you could be able to help more with what they're going through, but sometimes you feel like it just isn't possible, and it kills you. If only I was stronger, right? Maybe I could be there for them. I could definitely empathize with An in that regard. This is what torments An. Once her best friend is transported to the hospital for pretty much the remainder of the game, we see how much it destroys An. She wishes she could have been there for her. She wishes that she could have been stronger for her best friend's sake. However, as you continue helping her individually, she comes to realize that while she can't go back in time, she can look forward. She makes a promise not only to herself, but to her best friend Shiho, to be strong and to work hard in whatever it is she chooses to do in life, and that is the best way to help her best friend, to show how strong she is so that when she needs it, An will be someone she can look to for help, unlike before.
Back when I met Shiho, when she saved me, I realized that personal relationships are something to be treasured. That's why I'm not going to run away anymore. I'll face myself head on. This time, it's my turn to help someone. You can lean on me too, if you need it.
Following on, in my opinion, the funniest character, Yusuke. He's so funny to me, I don't know, man. It's always the ones that act super serious that end up having the funniest moments. Okay, so Yusuke is an artist, an excellent one at that. There's just one problem. His sensei, Madarame, who is a famous artist and is praised by all of Japan, is actually a fraud, using the work of his talented students and displaying them to the world as his own. This is how he rose to stardom. As we continue the story and we infiltrate the palace of his sensei, we discover that Yusuke knew this deep down for a long time, but chose to deny it because his sensei is the one who took him in when his mother died, provided him shelter, raised him, even though he knew that he was the reason he was finding no financial success himself and why his mother died. It was this sense that he owed his life to this man, almost like Stockholm Syndrome. That's the vibe it gave me. Once we help resolve his troubling situation and begin his social link, hanging out with him and whatnot, we discover his deeper mental roadblock. Once we expose the true manipulative and greedy nature of his former sensei's cognition, his mind, Yusuke's art realm that he had placed so much faith in became distorted by greed and unchecked desires, since his art realm had his sensei at the center of it, almost like what the sun is to our solar system. His master was kind of like his compass, you could say. He could no longer paint anything of value or substance to himself because he saw bits of his sensei in him. He hated that things like greed and desire are seemingly a part of human nature. For example, of course Yusuke wanted to be compensated at some point, but he saw that as a flaw because he didn't want to be driven by things such as money or fame like his master. I find it funny because, dude, Yusuke is shown repeatedly to be struggling financially and cuts corners wherever he can to just be able to eat sometimes. But that just goes to show you how opposed he was to the idea of letting any desire or greed get into his work at all, if this was his case. However, through you helping him and giving him a chance by spending time with him, regardless of how weird and eccentric he is, to help him out of his artistic slump, he discovers that this duality in human nature, the want to be recognized versus the want to capture pure beauty, for example. He reflects on his dead mother's famous painting, the Sayuri. When he now looks at it, he realizes it's not as pure and straightforward as he once thought, as if he saw it through different eyes this time. He saw it now having multiple faces, both good and bad: love, regret, loneliness, anxiety, calm, and hope. And that is why it has such an immense impact on those who see it. He knows that he is nowhere near that level yet to be able to capture this kind of duality in his work. And he also realizes that the world can be dark and a cruel place. So he wishes to create a similar beacon of hope for others. He will accept that things like desire and hope are two opposite sides of the same coin, and while they often clash with each other, are inseparable in this world and human nature. He finally creates a painting he is truly proud of at the end of his social link, and catches the attention of viewers at an art gallery. He rightfully titled this work Desire and Hope. You can see that this immense light is in the center of what seems to be this really distorted darkness that lays within our hearts, symbolizing that as long as one has hope, overcoming that darkness within all of us is indeed possible. He says,
"If I am lost, they will extend their hands. If I am wrong, they will chastise me. As long as I have my rays of hope to guide me, I will be
I
fine.
believe these rays of hope he refers to are not only what he now has in his heart, but his newfound friends at this point in the story in the Phantom Thieves that now have his back, something he didn't have before.
It must have been troublesome dealing with me, but for some reason, I knew that you wouldn't abandon me until everything was said and done. Thank you, my friend. I reiterate my promise to you. I'll extend my assistance to you, should you ever stumble.
Next up, finally, best girl. Oh god. To me anyways, just my opinion. Makoto. The issues she shows and overcomes, I think out of almost everybody in the Phantom Thieves, are related to her a lot. She had multiple superiors that forced their really harsh expectations on her. The school principal and her older sister, who was now her guardian, since their mother and father were gone. Their father actually died. I forgot what happened to the mother. The principal was pushing just honestly stupidly demanding requests on her, like actually fucking stupid on her, such as solving the mystery of who the Phantom Thieves were and finding out who was the head of a mafia behind the system of using the students at Shujin as drug transporters, both of which were things that not even the police were having any luck with. Like, what the fuck? The principal would even say things like, you, as the student council president, has to solve these things, otherwise how would it reflect on your older sister, who has a really respectable position as a prosecutor? Like, what the fuck, dude? These examples that the game uses are really exaggerated, but at the end, on the fundamental level, I really related. And her sister, on the other hand, pretty much forced a blueprint of life on her and says this fucked up shit at one point that just honestly made me feel really uncomfortable. Like,
I just wonder if he would have been on their side.
The only reason you have time to think about that is because you depend on someone else.
That's not...
You don't have to do a single thing, and you're provided with food, clothes, a home. I've had no time to think on such ridiculous thoughts. Would Dad have been happy with them? I don't care. He died upholding some lofty sense of righteousness, leaving all his responsibilities on us.
All I was trying to say was...
Isn't it about time you grew up and acknowledged our situation? Right now, you're useless to me. All you do is eat away at my life.
like, holy fuck, I almost walked out of the room. But yeah, after seeing everything that's being forced upon her, it's not hard to tell that she feels suffocated by the people around her, feeling like she has no say in anything and just has to shut up and do as she's told and expected to behave. She's the precious Miss Student Council president after all, am I right? Hell, even all the students who she tries her best to help genuinely end up saying things like, oh, she's such a teacher's pet. The only reason she tries to help us is for a letter of recommendation from the principal. They pretty much think of Makoto as a robot that takes commands from adults. However, overall, she had lost sight of who she was and for what/who she was truly living her life for. However, she pushes through these things once she joins us. It's revealed later on that she was tired of being told to just shut up and do what she was told, but lacked the strength to speak out against this. She was probably afraid to be disowned by her sister or to disappoint anybody, but she had her own dreams, her own interests that made her a person, her own goals that no one bothered to hear out. Like with all the others, that all changed when she met you. Once you begin hanging out with Makoto, you help her realize that life is more than just pleasing those around you. Life should be lived doing things for your sake and your ideals. She's done trying to seek the praise of others and simply wants to do what makes her happy. She's more than just a machine that does what society hard codes into her.
His life trying to catch a group of those people. I will never forgive them, but I won't be able to eradicate them all on my own. Instead, I want to head an organization that will destroy the lawless and help rescue victims. That is the justice I aim for. I also believe it will be a continuation of my father's legacy. Honestly, it's a little strange that I found the true meaning of my studies outside of my studies. Thank you for all your help. Must have been difficult babysitting the uptight Miss President, right? Even so, I'm glad I asked you. I think now I'll be able to see the world even more differently.
I'm gonna kind of talk about me now. At my home, I'm considered the smart child, apparently. I don't know why. My grades were always good throughout all my years in high school, and because of this, the idea of going to college and majoring in something I'll also add I wasn't passionate about was being forced down my throat. When I told a certain someone that I wasn't entirely sure on what I wanted to major in yet, due to me being nervous about how this may very well dictate the outcome of my life for the next 40 years or whatever, they said, how do you not know? How could you not know? Well, What will people think if you go into college not knowing what you're doing? This person made me feel bad about it, even though it seemed really normal to me. I ended up choosing something on a whim to please this person, and I suffered a lot. I got through the classes fine, but man, was I not enjoying them at all. I was terrified by the thought of, is this it? Is this where my life ends? At no point was I ever asked how I fucking felt. I felt alone, lost, and no sense of purpose at all other than to fulfill others' wishes out of fear of being judged. This is why I relate so much to Makoto's character. Okay, also, I had to add this in. Can we appreciate how if you romance Makoto, she fucking asks for consent, which was so, it was so cute. Like, holy shit.
Well, I was thinking, maybe we could study some things we don't have experience in yet. Would that be okay?
It actually made me blush playing. I don't care how pathetic that sounds, like, bro. If we're talking straight depth and development, Futaba has all the girls beat from the Phantom Thieves. She literally gets her own damn palace in addition to her social link. Like, come on. I gotta say, like, just her story is kind of crazy, so I don't blame you if you don't relate to her. I mean, hell, I don't relate to her. But I mean, the lesson that she learns can be applied to everybody. I think everybody can relate to the underlying lesson. So, she is a hermit. She never leaves her room other than to use the restroom. And we can all safely assume she probably smells like shit. Even those of you who wiped her up, you gotta admit that, come on. Anyway, she lost her mother at a young age due to a supposed suicide, quote unquote. And the blame was casted on her by adults who were simply trying to cover their own asses because it's discovered that her mother was in fact killed via a mental shutdown. Pretty much somebody hacked her cognition. But yeah, these adults shifted the blame onto Futaba as such a young girl, telling her that it is her fault that her mother committed suicide. Imagine what that would do to you at such a young age. Being told that you're the reason your mother killed herself, like Jesus. As a result of this, she becomes depressed and feels she deserves to die. There's no doubt in my mind that her character was struggling with depression, like a really bad depression. She then also decides not to do anything with her life, like go to school even. She stayed in her room calling it a tomb. A fitting name for it considering her palace literally ends up being a pyramid. Oh, and by the way, since we're on the topic of her palace was by far my favorite before Royal came out. The music, the story, the conclusion, just, oh my gosh, I remember tearing up at the end of it. No boss from any palace really ever made me react by tearing up. I believe Futaba's was pretty much the only normal palace whose conclusion made me react that way. Like, wow. Once you beat her palace and you hang out with her, you help her regain her strength to decide that she actually wants to be happy, and that she will no longer deny the truth that she has always known, that it is not her fault that her mother died, and in fact, actually wants her to keep living. So, that's exactly what she does. She musters up the strength and continues to push on through life in the name of her mother, who she was now sure actually loved her instead of hated her in her mind.
This is the same room I've always had, but it looks so different now. It's not just here, though. My whole world is expanding. Every day brings new and different discoveries. The direction of Sojiro's cowlick, the atmosphere of Yongen, the various types of coffee beans. Things might be the exact same as they were yesterday, but from my perspective, it's all spinning. I knew it was possible, but I had never really felt that sensation before now. I just hope I can keep changing little by little, like everyone else does. I already have something I wouldn't have been able to get on my own. No, you're forgetting. You gave me something really important. You gave me my life back. It's thanks to you that I learned I'm fine just as I am, and that I learned to trust my mom again. I was as good as dead, but you resurrected me. I'd like to use my work with the Phantom Thieves to return the favor. Not only that, I realized if I only act for my own sake, I can't put my full effort into it anymore. But when I remember my friends, and you, it's like I'm tapping into some kind of unknown power. You gave me my life back, so it's my turn to risk my life for you.
Moving on to the next one, Haru. She's cute as fuck. And her voice, oh my god, that kawaii ass voice. Like, she would, just based on those two things alone, like her looks and her voice, she was up there with the best waifus for me. Holy fuck. She's so motherly and ugh. Anyways, so she's the daughter of the owner of Big Bang Burger, aka this universe's McDonald's. Needless to say, she's rich as fuck. However, this wealth brought by the performance of the company is the result of her father being super money and power hungry, exploiting workers and whatnot. Now, for how this situation was affecting Haru. Her father father was so obsessed with obtaining power and influence through the business world, he saw everything around him in his cognition as potential for more money signs. Even his own daughter. He took control of pretty much every aspect of her life and made decisions for her that would benefit the company. The most troublesome result of these really controlling tendencies to get more money was that he forced an arranged marriage on her with the son of another CEO to improve relations with them, to once again further themselves in the business world and potentially get closer to having power in politics. After infiltrating her father's palace and seeing what he truly thinks of her own daughter, Haru learns to not be this overly nice and innocent girl that says yes to everything at the expense of her life, well-being, and happiness, and decides to fight for what she wants out of life against her father. I find it really cute and funny how they decide to really show this stark contrast in her changing character. Like, she's literally the most sweet and motherly girl out of every female member in the Phantom Thieves, yet she's given a fucking axe. Like, probably the most brutal melee weapon out of everybody.
Either way, I think this dream of mine will be no easy feat. But I somehow managed to tackle my childhood dream of becoming a heroine of justice. If I act with resolve and believe in my actions, I know I'll be able to achieve anything. And if you're ever in trouble, I will be there for you. After all, you were there for me when I needed it.
Okay, so before we carry on further from here and get into the final bunch of characters, major spoilers here. This is when I get into endgame details. So yeah, Akechi. Akechi to me is by far the most interesting and honestly my favorite character in the game in terms of story and depth. A lot of people don't like him, but with Royal, he got his own complete social link that was absent from the original Persona 5, allowing us to see deeper into his character and why he thinks the way he does. So I'm gonna skip through his whole fake phase when he joined the Phantom Thieves just because to me that's really just all filler. So he explains during our fight with him that he is the bastard child of the very man who fucked up the protagonist's life in this game. Your life as Joker. We also learn that his mother committed suicide because of his birth, and his father abandoned him, leaving him to child institutions. As a result, Akechi grew up alone while yearning to be loved, to be relied on, to be acknowledged. I mean, he was literally abandoned by the only two people he loved at the time as a child. And if we notice that all of these things that he desired, once again, to be relied on, to be acknowledged, these are all things that you, as the protagonist, has achieved in the process of playing this game. I'm mentioning this little detail here for later. We're gonna dive into that a lot more. But back to Akechi. He grows up to become the famous Goro Akechi, the detective prince, famous for solving the cases behind the mental shutdown mystery that has been taking place from the beginning of the game. It is revealed that he is actually the one behind these mental shutdowns all throughout the game, also making people turn psychotic, causing them to kill themselves and others. For example, the train accidents. So in short, he is the one that has been making people go crazy or die, and then promptly solves them once he's done, allowing him to shine more in the public eye. It turns out he was also working alongside his father that abandoned him, who was ordering him to kill people who pose as threats to his plan of becoming Prime Minister of Japan. Akechi, even though having to obey his father's orders of killing innocents, was going along with it to reach his ultimate plan of achieving revenge on his father, who manipulated him and only saw him as a pawn that he would also discard, all in the hopes of becoming loved by the public. He sounds fucked up, right? How could anyone like this monster who gained your trust, then betrays you, tries to kill you, and then claims in his fight with you that the concept of friendship was vomit-inducing, that he only needs himself to become loved and to be successful in his plan and in life? Well, this is where his brand new social link comes into play. When you start hanging out with him individually as Joker through his social link, it's the first time Akechi gets to experience a simple, normal life with an actual friend. He grows to admire you, but at the same time, envies you greatly for what you have achieved. Friends who acknowledge you, rely on you, and stick by you no matter what. Akechi at some point says he wishes he and Joker could have met years prior, that maybe things would have turned out different. Joker was the only one Akechi even remotely cared about after being emotionally stunted by his childhood. Seeing Joker not only as his best friend, but as his rival. In the final fight against Akechi, when Morgana states to Akechi explicitly that his actual feelings towards Joker are actually positive despite having thrown away everything in the name of revenge, Akechi doesn't deny it. In fact, as his response, he looks away to the ground ashamed, standing defeated and in silence. Akechi and Joker represent two sides of the same coin. Both had similar origins where they were terribly wronged by the same adult, but went about changing their life in the opposite manner, where one decided to fight through a tough life and change the society, reform the society that wronged him with the help and aid of others who felt the same way, the people whom you provided a shoulder to lean on, and thus inspiring them to help you and to be there for you as well. The other one, Akechi, decided to traverse this path of life alone, void of meaningful relationships and intimacy, where his dark feelings and hatred of the world around him grew unchecked, while our protagonist's feeling of friendship, loyalty, and motivation to positively change the world around him grew. I absolutely loved this message. In order to see the change you want to see in the people around you, you must first become the change you want to see, instead of just waiting for something to happen and letting things remain as they are. Just one person doing this is indeed enough, because once you get at least one other person to see eye to eye with you for this change that you want to see, a beautiful domino effect begins that brings about worldwide change at some point, or at least Japan-wide change in this game. At the end of this fight, Akechi unfortunately passes away, saving you all. He realizes that what he did was wrong and makes you promise him one last thing: to take down his father in his name. Through his social link and you hanging out with him, we learn that he is completely done with being manipulated by others and simply wishes for freedom over his own life. I want to emphasize true freedom, something that is threatened later on in the third semester when he comes back. We're getting to that, don't worry.
End his crimes. Please! After all this, that's what you have to say. Seriously, you really are. So, my final enemy is a puppet version of myself.
His signal is gone.
The conclusion to this video is almost here. Time to knock out the final two birds with one stone. Firstly, Sumire. Sumire throughout the entire game presents herself to you as Kasumi Yoshizawa, which we actually learn is her older sister that passed away, saving Sumire from getting hit by a car. We learn that they both shared the same dream of becoming great gymnasts and dancers in Japan.
Today was brutal, huh? Feeling okay?
Why am I doing so bad? I keep messing up my routine. We practice the same amount. But you're the one who always gets first place. I can't catch up to you, Kasumi.
You know why? Because it's my right as the elder sister.
We're in the same grade, though.
Oh, don't be so down. We'll reach the top of the world together. That's our dream, right?
You don't get it.
Huh?
You'll never understand how I feel.
What?
Kasumi, if I were like you, things would be so much better. Kasumi's the one that people want.
Look where you're going! The light's red! Sumire! Someone do something.
Kasumi.
However, Sumire becomes severely depressed knowing that she's the reason her older sister died, and wishes that it was actually her that died because of how much better her older sister Kasumi was at everything. According to Sumire, she continues to live in the shadow of her sister. She decides to get help from the counselor, Dr. Maruki, the one who brings about the new greatest arc of Persona 5, and the conclusion to this video. He is the final boss you have to fight, but we learn that he doesn't have any malintent with his actions like anyone you fought thus far. Bear with me. He has the power at this point in the story to manipulate one's perception of reality. I believe before the third semester we learned that it's limited to only one person. He used his power to fulfill Sumire's wish of literally becoming her sister, who she perceived as perfect and better than her in every way, throwing away Sumire since once again she thinks that Sumire deserved to die anyway. Towards the end of the game, we learn Dr. Maruki's full plan and motivation behind it. His persona's ability by the end of the game fully awakened to its full power. and has the ability to legit warp everybody in Tokyo's reality. One where psychological pain doesn't exist, and everything that has caused you pain in the past has been erased. A perfect life. Paradise. Very enticing, right? I mean, Sumire literally ends up wanting to fight Joker and Akechi for wanting to confront Maruki to make him put a stop to it. That's how badly she didn't want to give it up. She obviously loses because duh, we're fucking Joker. And once we have our first proper fight with Maruki along with the Phantom Thieves, he releases Sumire to us in retreats. After this, we further explore Sumire's social link, where she learns little by little to accept that she is her own person and not her sister, no matter how much she wanted to be. She used to be completely dependent on her older sister Kasumi to make decisions for her because she lacked any confidence whatsoever in her decision making about her own life. She had pretty much no identity. Through hanging out with you, she realized that she must push on living for Kasumi as Sumire and to accept reality for what it is rather than denying and running from it.
You've grown so much, Sumire. I'm sure this is no surprise to you, but the path to international success will be harsh and relentless. Are you ready?
Absolutely. I will be #1 in the world of gymnastics. I will make our dream a reality.
Glad to hear you're so sure. Your dream is no longer impossible, and you're the one who decided that, not me. You didn't even realize it, did you? Today's the first time you've told me you will win on an international level. Until today, you'd only tell me, I hope I win.
Oh,
Perhaps you even have someone special. The person who makes you want to dance just for them? It's good to hear you have someone who really understands you in your corner.
Coach Hiraguchi liked my routine. Thanks to you, I feel like I finally found the answer I've been searching for, as well as discovering what's most important to me while performing. I've learned all sorts of things from my time with you. Now, I can show everyone how I really feel, and the two of us can take the crown of the gymnastics world.
This right here, what I'm saying, is the main premise of the whole new arc of this game that just really impacted me and hit so close to home. So backtracking a little bit to before fighting Kasumi and Maruki for the first time, you and Akechi are given 1 week to explore this perfect world for yourselves that Dr. Maruki has made for everyone, and to then decide whether or not you still want him to erase it. At this point, only you and Akechi are aware of everything being false. All of your Phantom Thieves are not aware of anything and are actually living it up. In these 7 days, you see for yourself how happy your friends are. In this reality, Ryuji never broke his leg because of that fucked up teacher, and he's actually still on the track team. Ann's best friend, Shiho, was never sexually abused and thus never attempted suicide, so she stayed at Shujin, and their friendship remained untouched. Yusuke's sensei was an actual sensei for Yusuke, helping him refine his talents and not exploiting his art for fame and fortune. Makoto's father never died, and her relationship with her older sister Sai was, well, normal. She had the family she always wanted. Futaba's mother was never killed, and you see her living happily with her and Sojiro, your guardian that takes you in, by the way. Haru's father wasn't a controlling, greedy asshole that was planning on using his daughter to advance his power in politics. Sumire continuing to live life as Kasumi, and Akechi and Joker continued on as best friends. Pretty much everyone living in blissful ignorance. Now, with me saying all this, I ask you, would you take this offer? You can think about it. It's literally paradise. Anything you wish for becomes true, and everything you've ever overcame in life is wiped, because that counts as psychological pain, right? It made you hurt. Well, here's why I didn't. You just played anywhere from 70 to 100 hours leading up to this point. You really want to erase all of those hours where you helped your friends overcome their respective cruel challenges life set down before them. All that growth as a result of these cruel events as a team, as best friends, and as individuals. You went through it all with these guys. The good and the ugly. The really high ups and the really difficult lows. Making the bond between you all unbreakable. Hell, this made me actually care for them. The connection I felt to these characters was unreal. And once again, at a time when I pretty much had no real friends, these people were my friends. Did I really want to toss everything I've been through with them out the window? Fuck no. This is when it hit me in the heart. After you deny his offer, and beat him after a pretty long-ass battle, you return back to your reality, the one in which everything is as it was, where life is unfair and will continue to lay down more hardships along your path. But hey, it's those lows that gives the high moments value, Akechi in this reality is dead, just like before. What I'm about to explain next is how Royal really improves on the original in terms of how its true ending wraps things up. You, as the protagonist, leaves back to his hometown since everything was fixed, your probation was lifted, and the assault charge was undone. However, what this game does differently is that it shows how your teammates grew as individuals instead of only as a team together, showing how they are standing on their own 2 feet now thanks to you and everyone else on the team who was there for each other. In the end credits of this true ending, we see Ryuji taking control of his life with what he has now instead of dwelling on the past. He moves away and tells us simply that he's gonna do his own thing. As for what that thing is, it's left in the air, but that's for him to find out on his own. An continues fighting for her dream that is discovered in her social link of becoming a model, since she's no longer ashamed of her polarizing looks that used to give her a lot of unwanted attention. Yusuke is the only one that stays in town to continue painting and improving on his skills with what he has learned about the human heart. Makoto now moves away to live on her own in an apartment and will continue to go to college to pursue a career as a police commissioner in the name of her father, just like she always wanted. I wanted to emphasize that. She knows that it won't be easy, but because it's her own resolve leading her down this path, she will persevere. Futaba begins school again after being a shut-in for so long and is ready to march on through life, just like how her mother truly wanted for her. Haru is taking steps towards improving how the public views Okumura Foods after the passing of her father. Instead of having the business focus on profit, she intends to make it a place of comfort and love, just like a cafe we know of. And lastly, Akechi has passed away, but we all know that this is what he truly wanted.
I will carve my own path for myself. I refuse to accept a reality concocted by someone else, stuck under their control for the rest of my days.
To be free from the manipulation of others. This is what I tell myself anyway, because I like to assume that he was finally happy in the end. So this might be where I get a little bit emotional, because this is where I'm going to properly reflect on the game and how it helped me. For a bit of context, I'm going to open up to you guys right now, like even more than I have before, on my experiences and what I've gone through in the past. So, towards the end of high school, I felt myself beginning to lose strength in my passion. The fire was beginning to blow out, but I ignored it and endured. I knew my parents, especially my father, would be extremely disappointed. After all those years in my childhood, he spent training me. He was harsh in these sessions, but I felt like it was something we could actually bond over. It was the one thing we had. So I went to university for this passion of mine on a team. Once my support system was gone and I was by myself, this is where my lack of passion really got exposed. My coach noticed and stopped playing me and stopped letting me travel with the team. As a result, my confidence took a nosedive. The one thing I felt at least somewhat above average in life, and something I felt that could lead people to acknowledge me, I no longer loved as much. And me being made to feel inferior in it really fucked with my head heavy at the time. And at the same time, I was majoring in something I also wasn't passionate about at all. It was engineering. If it wasn't clear before, I'll just say it now. My father was extremely strict with me growing up and had really high expectations of me. When I said I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to major in senior year of high school, he made me feel ashamed about it when actually I thought it was quite normal. He told me that not knowing something as important as the life-impacting decision of what to major in right out of high school was bad. Can you believe that? So to satisfy this, I chose engineering because I knew that that was something he wanted to hear, something he expected of me. As you could guess, with all that was going on with my passion and my dwindling confidence, my grades started to drop as well. I failed my first class ever. This hit me in a way like, oh my god, I felt so fucking worthless. I felt so alone. I had no one at the time I could call a true friend that I could confide in for comfort. After that semester, I withdrew and came back home. I couldn't help but feel like such a fucking failure to everybody around me, and like I was weak. Then to add insult to injury, I had an increasingly toxic friend in my already tiny friend group at the time that mocked me for being a quote-unquote dropout. He knew I had already told him it was for personal reasons I didn't feel comfortable in sharing with him, yet he still used it to belittle me. I can confidently say that I was depressed at this point. I lost all sense of purpose because I no longer had a passion that made me eager to wake up every morning. I forgot what a true meaningful relationship felt like, since one of my only friends I thought I could trust was making me feel like shit. And I also had people around me that made me feel like what I wanted to do in life should be secondary to what they wanted me to do in life. I didn't want to wake up anymore. I thought that life was meaningless because I lost sight of what I should live for. I had nobody. I wasn't talking to anybody. However, through the events of this game, my outlook on life changed massively, and for that I'm truly grateful. Befriending everybody on the Phantom Thieves and seeing how similar of a state I was in to them and how they grew and overcame their challenges with the help of the person I was pretending to be while playing this game, Joker, it made me want to be like him and like them. I mean, after all, Joker was literally the glue that brought everybody together. All of these people that started off, they were damn near about to give up on themselves, just like how I was at the time. But seeing how they all moved past them, I wanted to be like that. I too wanted to be able to say that I don't care how much people tell me what I'm doing isn't right in their opinion, or that they don't think what I want to do is acceptable, or that they think I'm stupid for what I want to be in life. I too want to stick to my ideals no matter what, and attract people that are truly right for me in my life. This game showed me what true, meaningful relationships look like, and it reminded me what it means to live an actual fulfilling life, to do things for the sake of my happiness, and that fall in compliance with my ideals and values. I became accustomed to pleasing people like my parents in hopes that they'd be proud to call me their son to their friends and family, or even to stop a toxic friend from belittling me, and I even let that influence life impacting decisions, and even changed my personality to one that wouldn't get me made fun of by others. Life isn't perfect. In fact, it can be cruel and unfair, and you should accept that you will be put through the ringer. Life will beat your ass and test you. Overcome these tests and accept them as a part of you. Don't brush them under the rug and ignore them or be ashamed of them, or wish that they never happened, like I once did about everything that happened to me. Without pain brought by hardships, there is no growth. The pain I've endured and overcome in my lifetime is a part of me. It's what's made me the person I am. It's what's shaped my values and ideals, and it's what's led me to the friends I've made today, and why our bonds are as strong as they are. So yeah, if I was given the chance to go back in time and change things so that the hardships I faced never happened, would I take it? My answer is still a firm no. I now accept and am no longer ashamed of all the negative things I just explained happened to me, and will continue living my life through my own will. Any consequences, both negative or positive, will be a result of my actions and decisions. That to me is true freedom. The freedom to prosper, along with the freedom to suffer. Look, going through this game we call life is hard, and going through it alone makes it even harder than it already is. This game helped me realize that simply having somebody to go to when I stumble, a shoulder to lean on, to cry on, somebody to fight for who shares your ideals and values, life becomes so much easier and enjoyable. While yes, you shouldn't be over-dependent on others, you have to recognize when you need help. For all of this, I truly owe a lot to this game. I know I still have a long way to go before I am where I want to be, but I'll keep fighting. I now am a mediocre YouTuber that's slowly improving, with people from different countries that support the crap he does, which I still find unbelievable. This boy that once accepted being average as his fate now finally has the strength to say, I want to be more. Not only for myself, but for others too who continue to support me and who want someone that understands them and is there for them as well. I want to become the person I wish I had a couple years back. My outlook on life is so much more positive and fearless, which I still can't believe I'm saying that. If it would have been a year or two ago, I would not be saying that. These days I no longer wake up hating my life, hating that I'm the way I am, and hating the things that have happened to me. I now have two great friends in my corner, rooting for me, and that can rely on me when they need help too. I'm now marching to my future with eagerness instead of fear, anxiety, or dread. I know I have more hardships coming my way, but I'll get through them. I'm not weak like I was before. For this, I want to thank you, my friends, and these guys.